And we are live. Hey everyone, my name is Prince. I can never do these fucking intros, can I? Never. All I wish is to have one intro. I can just do it. It can be smooth. I can do it regularly. I don't fuck up. That's all I ask. And it never fucking happens. Ever. I can never manage it. Ugh. And now the inside of my ear is itchy. Just to make things worse. As I was saying, hey everyone, my name is Prince, and welcome back to another stream on The Craft. We're back. Once again, still in non-shader Minecraft. I haven't even checked if Optifine is out for 1.21. Honestly, you know, I'm not incredibly bothered by it. Maybe I'll just stick with non-Optifine for a while. Then again, that does mean I won't be able to do the zoom in, and I do like the zoom. Ugh. Yes, Vitality, I am a bit late. I'm usually later than this. Hey, Abraham, how you doing? Right. Did I just hear pillagers again? I swear to God, if they're back, I'm gonna lose it. They won't leave me the fuck alone. Yeah, this is definitely looking a lot nicer. I'm gonna be honest, I was very worried that this wasn't gonna look that good, but now that we've done the floors and everything, I really do like this pattern of walls. I think it does look really good. Right. Well, what are we gonna do? What are we going to do today? Maybe I'll just continue building up the storage room. Maybe I could make the little archway that goes into the storage room. Let me think. I haven't thought a lot of this through, have I? Because I'm just thinking, I thought out the whole thing of having like a double layered wall, like an outside layer and an inside layer, so I could customize both of them, but I didn't think to do that for this. So if I do this, then there's barely any room for, there's barely any room to walk. Maybe it's just this bit that needs adjusting, not this bit. Put this back for now. Well, that does look kind of cool. Can never place dirt right. As I'm very heavily showcasing right now. Right, yeah, if I do this, then this can serve as the outer, like the inner wall of this bit, and it can be separate. Again, still not sure what I'm actually going to use this bit for, but and you can just have a 3x3 door here. Oh no, that doesn't work, does it? Does it? I don't know. Maybe I just have a 2x2 then. Or a 2x3 or whatever. Every bleeding time. Every time. Every single time. If I had to take a... I haven't looked in a while, but if I had to take a guess, I'd say probably not even close. And I'm not... Again, I'm not against talking about Arthur stuff on this channel. That's why I keep saying... Like, I don't say it anymore because I'm a broken record at this point, and, you know, if people don't listen, I'm just not going to say it anymore, but, like, that's why I always used to say, like, you know, come to the streams, because I'm not against talking about Arthur stuff, on top of the whole thing of, like, if you like Arthur, you probably will like some of the other things I do on this channel. But I was talking about this a while ago anyway. People are atting me. My friends want to play Lethal Company with me. But yeah, I talked about this, a while ago as well. The thing is, having reflected on it further, on me, it's not even the watch hours that are really even the problem, as I've sort of discovered. Oh, Jesus. Excuse me. It's not really even the watch hours that are the problem. The problem is that Arthur content simply doesn't do as good as everything else that I do. And that's... You may think that as me just showing favoritism and not wanting to do Arthur content anymore, but that's not what it is at all. It's the fact that Arthur content, if I were to do it, say, for instance, and like I said, I have talked about this before, but, say, for instance, I magically got all 4,000 of the watch hours I needed, got monetization, blah, blah, blah. In order for me to put the time into making Arthur content, it would have to do good enough in terms of views and stuff to warrant me spending the time on it. And frankly, I don't think it does. So that's not me... It's not me saying I'll never do Arthur content again. It's not me saying I don't want to do Arthur content. It's me saying that right now, doing Arthur content isn't really an option for me, because I need to focus on YouTube getting me a sustainable income, and the Arthur channel would not do that for me. And that is the simple truth. That's all there is to it, really. At some point in the future, I may come back to it. That's not a guarantee either. But, yeah, that's really the short and narrow of it. Because I like to be transparent. I'm not gonna sit here and go just like, oh yeah, I will go back to working on it soon, because that'd just be a lie. So, when I have information like this, you know, I'm just going to be transparent about it, because otherwise I'm just giving you guys false hope. Jesus, just ate my tea, I'm all gassy. Right, yeah, so this is still the bottom layer, isn't it? Because that's the top layer. Jesus. Right, that was weird, I thought I just heard something. I'm hearing, like, banging. What the fuck are my neighbors doing now? Don't take that out of context. Ugh. Right. I need wood. No, not, well, I don't know. I just heard that dog. Oh, for God's sake, will you piss off? Jesus. I've had enough of homophobes lately. Right, yeah, I appreciate you understanding, Abraham, because it's like, it's not that I don't want to make Arthur content. Granted, and I will be honest, I'm not really as into Arthur as I was beforehand, and I think that's due to a lot of factors. On me. But I'm not saying I won't ever make content on it ever again. At the same time, I'm not saying I will, but it's situational at the minute. It's not me not wanting to do it. I have considered just moving Arthur to this channel, but I don't know. It's mainly because... I was going to say it's mainly because, of all the stuff I already have on the Casual Prince, but, you know, and that is the Arthur channel. But, might not be the worst idea, especially since I'm monetized on here. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. But again, it's the same. It doesn't really matter whether, again, monetization, like, a channel not having monetization isn't the problem. It's the fact that, Arthur content doesn't, it wouldn't warrant the time I spend making it. It's actually, I tell you what, it's actually, I'm happy that it's, the temperatures have gone down. I feel like this was the fault of an Enderman. Damn fucking Enderman. Yeah, those of you who were in the stream on Wednesday, it was absolutely roasting on Wednesday. Like, I was, ugh. And I didn't even have my main fan, I didn't even have my main fan on Wednesday, so I was just roasting. I had a heater with a fan setting that was like weak as shit. Yeah, no, yeah, that's the thing. It's just it, isn't it? And the thing is, like, if I did Arthur content now, it would be a lot better. Because the sort of content that you guys miss, pardon me, I'll be able to do it a lot better nowadays. Because I've progressed in editing and thumbnail making skills and my ideas and stuff. And I can do more because I have a better PC and stuff like that. So, yeah. So, yeah, it's not a definite, you know, like, I will never do it again. Maybe sometime in the future. If I were to do it, I probably would do it on this channel. Because it sort of makes sense, to be honest, because I've always sort of I've sort of wondered about this, in that I've considered before making different channels for all of the different franchises I cover, but I feel like that would be very, like, you could do that, and a lot of people do that, but at the same time, it sort of, it's not the best. I don't see it as being the best idea, because if you have one channel where everyone, you know, where you do everything on, it makes it more likely that, like, people who are just fans of one thing will branch out and check out all of your other content. Because if they subscribe to one, because if you only have one channel that everyone's subscribed to, a lot of the time they're sort of inclined to check out your other stuff, because while they may only be interested in the one thing, it's you they've come to watch, so they're obviously more inclined to watch some of your other stuff. Whereas I know firsthand how, I didn't mean to place that there. I know firsthand how difficult it is to migrate people from one channel to the other, because I tried to do that for years with the Arthur channel and the Arthur community and everything, and I've not really managed it that much. And that's the thing, like, I keep reiterating, you know, it's me we're talking about. Like, I like all of the stuff that I like is similar in some way to Arthur, whether that's that it's got, like, good world building, or it's fantasy, or, you know, something else. It's magical, got good story to it, it's inventive, it's creative, it's underrated, it's from our childhoods. There is always gonna be some sort of, you know, something that links all of the different things I cover together. And that's why I encourage people from the Arthur channel to check out the stuff I do on this channel, because it's highly likely that either they'll find something on here that they weren't previously into, but that they find interesting and they want to get into, Or they'll find something else like Arthur that they loved as a kid and want to, you know, get back into. So that's why I always encourage people from the Arthur channel to check out this channel, because of stuff like that. Oh, that's part of the Sniffer Grove. I wondered what that was then. Oh man, that one's already grown already. Jesus Christ, that's a big tree. Is that really one tree? Okay, I'm leaving that one. That fucking hell, I've never seen an oak tree that big before. Separate these bits though, because they're not the same. Yeah, you could make a tree out of that one. It's mental. Problem is, it's annoying because, like, that's another tree that I won't want to chop down now. This is meant to be a woodery. And I really don't like... On me. I really don't like how leaves of other trees stay together like this. I'm sure it can be useful for building and stuff. But, stuff like when you're just doing stuff like this, it's a bit annoying. Yeah, I've never thought of using the Wayback Machine to try and view videos before. I don't really think, I'm not sure. I don't know. Huh, I've never really considered doing that. I don't know if it would work, but, clearly it didn't work for you, but, recreate the story mode house. That would be cool, but I think it wouldn't really, like, if I tried to do that, it would probably, like, hug the enchanting tower a bit too much, and it'd probably look quite ugly. Right, well, we got a decent bit of oak wood. Wait a minute, didn't I just realized I stopped, like, getting stuff from the woodery, and I was just, like, bone mealing that one oak tree, wasn't I? Forgot about that. Oh, okay. I don't know, I could. I don't really see why, though. I don't really see why I'd want to. I could do it. Maybe I'll do that in the future. Could be a nice ode to Minecraft Story Mode, considering, you know, I cover it on the channel. You know, I don't know if I ever talked about this. I checked it out a while ago, but I found out a while ago that someone, or it's not just the one person, it's like a group of people have actually recreated the entirety of Minecraft Story Mode in Minecraft, and I downloaded the map and had a look at it, and it's fucking amazing. I also tested the Witherstorm mod out on that world, and that was quite fun. That was very fun. I consider doing a little mini-series, like trying to recreate the events that happened in Minecraft Story Mode on that map. I might end up doing that at some point. No, not yet, because if I was gonna do that, I'd want to do a series reacting to it for the first time. But we discovered how to do it ages ago. Like, good couple of years ago at this point, I think. There was like a site that let you watch them, in English. Right, let me... I really wish you could have oak log like stairs and stuff. That's such a limitation. Kinda wish I had the carpentry mod on. Do like oak log here and then trying to like figure out where I want the doorway to be. Like there. Yeah, the thing is, I have watched, like, the first, I think, 7 episodes, but, they weren't in English, and obviously that doesn't really, that adds, or sort of takes away from the experience, the fact that I can't really understand anything. How am I gonna make this look good? I mean, I could just do a simple 1, 2, 3, and then like that. Ow. Hello, Redbeard. Is that too big? That's what she said. I feel like that's too big. Maybe not, actually. Maybe not. And then just have, like, the rest of the stripped ones here. Don't really know why I'm doing it like this, but I can't really strip them like this. Yeah, I think that looks great. Yeah, that's fine. I have no idea what you're saying, Redbeard. Alright, time to change the rest of it. I'm kind of weirded out that I just skipped out on this bit. Just fucking missed it. Where's my pickaxe? These tunnels are really ominous. I forgot I had these. Are they ever gonna... No, they're never gonna be seen, so I don't really need to replace them. Just a waste of resources. Oh, thank you, Redbeard. Yeah, I only speak English, Redbeard, sorry. Right, now we're in need of, now we're in need of more wood. Huh. On me. I'm considering making this just a way out. Put a little staircase leading out, considering I use it so often, but it's a bit of a... No, because I was gonna use that bit over there as like a little minecart, tunnel that led to the desert, wasn't I? Yeah, I forgot about that. That's okay, Redbeard. Right, what was I doing? Wood, yes. Do you have any bone meal? I do have a lot of spare arrows, but that's not besides the point. Oh, yes. Lovely. I'll just use all of this. Why not? Oh, it is getting towards night time though, so I'll probably sleep. Ah. Why are people on Reddit messaging me? Oh yeah, people are responding. I put a there's this Reddit there's this Reddit trend that's been going around where people post like it's like a picture of this dude in a suit with different colored squares that each mean different things, and you're meant to like post your hot takes to do with that topic, and it's like whether or not let me show the image. It's on my phone. It's like you can't really see it, but and someone posted it on the COD Zombies subreddit, and my hot take was that Horizon is a boring and unoriginal map that's basically just the terrible incest baby of Mob, Origins, and the Giant, and every other map on BO3 is better. As I really wanted to like slam my phone down then, but it, like, the way I was holding it didn't really let me. God damn it. But yeah, and I talked about that on the Horizon Direct stream. I just don't get why people like it so much. I really don't. Hello, Mattia. How you doing? Tell you what, the bonus of this is that at least, why don't I do it from, like, why don't I, like, staircase my way up and then just do it, one layer at a time. Probably make it easier. Well, in that case, Mattia, welcome to the channel. Glad to have you here. Go check out the channel itself, after the live stream's done. Got plenty of stuff, from all variations of, stuff. I play games a lot, but my main focus is doing videos on obscure franchises from people's childhoods. I'm sure there's probably something on my channel you'll enjoy. Definitely a continuation from the third movie. Diaz, no questions asked. I still don't get why they didn't do, because we were gonna get that with the Book of Life. I just don't get why they cancelled it. Oh, marvelous. But yeah, we were gonna get that, and then we didn't, and then we got the regular series. Which, in all fairness, might not have been, like, I can kind of understand why they did that, now that I'm a bit older and a bit more intelligent. Because the same way that, like, Ben 10 did, like, Omniverse, and the reboot, I guess, and an Omniverse was sort of like, as well as being a continuation, like, introduce a new set of people to Ben 10. So I can kind of get why they did that, because going through with the Book of Life may not have been that successful, because at that point, you know, the franchise had been out for quite a while. But then again, there have been, you know, you know, comebacks that have taken longer than that. What am I doing? I'm not concentrating now. I'm being a fucking moron. It's annoying with this pissing hole in the middle. Thanks, Mattia. Appreciate it. if you've got Discord, then go join the casual Discord in the description down below as well. Then you'll be God damn it. Can these stop falling down here? This is getting annoying now. But yeah, if you've got Discord, then go join the casual Discord in the description down below. You'll get automatically notified whenever I upload, or I'm doing a live stream, so yeah. Just get rid of this bit, because it's getting annoying bits falling down there. Hand's already starting to stiffen up, because I'm not moving it as much. I'm just sort of tapping W, A, S, and D a bit. My friends were just atting me, telling me that we're gonna play Lethal Company after I'm done with this stream. Anyone here play Lethal Company? And it was a bit, I didn't really want to, I wasn't really interested in it at first, but I got it basically because my friends peer pressured me into it, and it is, it's enjoyable to play if you've got friends to play it with. It's definitely good for my group of friends. Like, I feel like, in order for the game to be fun, you have to have a very sort of chaotic group of friends. Luckily, I really do have a very chaotic group of friends, so it is quite fun. But, yeah, I can just fill this in with cobblestone, because I should just mine this up, because no one's gonna... Actually, people might see... Yeah, people are gonna see this bit, so I can't really fill that in. Yeah, it is, Fish, and it's... The good thing about Lethal Company is that, like... It does the whole thing in that, like, you communicate via, like, walkie-talkie and stuff. And doing that instead of just being, like, in-game chat is, like, in Discord or something, is so much fun. Like, me and my friends will just be, like talking over the walkie-talkies and just being like, you're a piece of shit, over. It's so fun. But, like I said, I feel like it's only fun if you have the specific, like, group of friends to play it with that are chaotic. Because if you have, like, boring friends, then it's not going to be as fun. But my group of friends is very chaotic and very whack. So, you know, it works for us. You reckon? I mean, I don't really, like, I would prefer, I mean, I don't know. What's the better option? What's the better option? To have, excuse me. What's the better option? To have a continuation of a series that's bad and tarnishes its reputation, or to have a completely separate reboot of a series that is bad and tarnishes its reputation? I don't know, like, which one's worse. What do we reckon, people, actually? I want all of you guys' opinions. Like, say you have a franchise that ended. Would you rather have a bad continuation or a bad reboot? I still think I'd rather have a bad continuation, because, like, surely to God it can't all be bad, and that way you get to see your favorite characters again, like carrying off from where they left off, if that makes sense. So I think a bad continuation is still the better option. A bad reboot is both, like, bad by itself and bad because it's a reboot and trying to restart everything and doing it worse, basically. I feel like all bad reboots just sort of make people think, why did you reboot it? Why didn't you just carry on from, you know, what the franchise was originally? Yeah, that's the thing. Like, because if you have a studio that's incapable of making anything, like, if you ask them to do a reboot of a franchise that already exists, that means that's actually kind of difficult, because that's like, you're trying to... I tell you what, that, I've never really thought of it that way, but that might actually be quite a difficult thing to do, making a reboot of an already existing franchise, because if you think about it, like, making a completely new franchise from scratch, if you've got, like, any shred of imagination, I'd say that's... excuse me, I'd say that's not easy, but, you know, you can do it. Making a continuation of an already existing franchise, if you know that franchise well, that's even more easy. Like, that's really easy. Making a reboot of an already existing franchise, I feel like that's difficult. Because it's like, you've got to do something that's new, but also old. You've got to retain to the sort of original versions of the show or franchise whilst making it new and rebootish. Because if you don't, if it's too similar, then it's just like, why are you doing a reboot? You just might as well have carried it on. So I feel like doing a reboot's actually quite difficult. God. Ow. Still got, Red Bob here. In his golden armor. You haven't read Arthur Returns yet? That's surprising. For you, Abraham. Starved of Arthur content, and you haven't even read one of the, like, what I've written of one of the other Arthur books that I've made. One of my old videos that is no longer on my channel, so, you know, actually talked about that, because I actually announced Arthur Returns, on video for the first time. Oh, look at all these skeletons. Fantastic. So many potential bones. Oh, fuck off. Oh god, here they come. You missed. There we go. But my thought process behind Arthur Returns at the time was something like I sort of referred to it as an inspiration booster. Like, obviously at the time when I first published Arthur Returns, I was writing Arthur 5. I don't know, I can't remember when. I could probably find out. I do actually want to have a look now, because I'm curious. It's been a while since I've thought about it, so I do want to have a look. It was sort of like an alternate style for me to explore in an Arthur story. Let's see. The prologue of Arthur Returns was December 2nd, 2019. How does that correlate to Arthur 5? December of 19. So that was in between Chapter 8 and 9 of Arthur Returns. That was between the Frantic Hours and the Midnight Reunion. Like, pretty much slap bang in between as well. Actually, no, it might not have been, because I think, no, because the Midnight Reunion's been edited. That's really annoying that I can't see the initial publishing date as soon as I edit it after it's been published. But I'd say it'd probably be somewhere around that time. But, yeah. But yeah, the funny thing is, Arthur Returns was actually inspired by a Marvel movie. It was actually inspired by, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Which is actually, I think, it might actually be my favorite Marvel movie, like, ever. I really like, the Ant-Man and the Wasp, franchise. Or at least I did until Quantumania came out, because that was god-awful. Is that drowned? What are you doing above the water? Steal that dead spider's string. But, yeah, it was inspired by Ant-Man and the Wasp. There's a line in there, it's, it was the initial conversation between, Hope and Scott when they first met up again after so long. God damn it, they always manage to fucking hit me. And it was a line spoken... Oh, look at that spot. I really want to zoom in. I don't have up to fine. It was a line spoken by Hope, and it was something, along... I really want to try and remember it properly, because I pride myself on being able to quote things properly. I think the line was... I'm not looking for an apology, Scott. The only reason we're talking is because we need what's inside your head, or something along those lines. And that line, and at the time when I watched Ant-Man and the Wasp, I'm trying to remember when it came out. Let me check. When did it come out? Ant-Man and the Wasp. 2018. So yeah, that was... Yeah, that was... When exactly? August 2018. So yeah, that was literally at the very peak of my Arthur inspiration. Because that was, like... April, May, June, July... Like, 5 months. Around 5 months... Wait, that doesn't... God, I must have taken a long time to decide to do Arthur Returns then. But... Yeah, that was like 5 or so months after it all started. So that was basically at the peak of my inspiration on the franchise. So... Yeah, so that line was basically, it basically made me wonder, like, because that line was sort of after they'd had a falling out, because, during Civil War, obviously, Scott basically, like, took the suit and went to Germany with, Cap, obviously, to fight the rest of the Avengers. And obviously, Hank and Hope were really pissed off with him about that. And Scott and Hope obviously sort of had a bit of a... They were starting to have a romantic relationship at the end of the first movie, and then that sort of obviously got rid of that a bit. So my thought process behind that, and it literally was that Arthur Returns was inspired completely by that one single line, and I don't think I've ever actually admitted that that's the line before. I think I've said what movie it was, I don't think I've ever said the line specifically. But it was literally completely inspired by that line, because I was thinking to myself, like, I wanted to try and explore what Arthur and Selenia's relationship could be like, because back then they were the driving force for me writing everything, basically. It was my obsessive inspiration that they did not get a satisfying close to their love story. It was always that was driving me back then. So I sort of wanted to, hello, Kareen G. How you doing? So I sort of wanted to explore, like, what Arthur and Selenia's relationship would be like after some sort of event that would drive them apart like this, and sort of have them rekindle their relationship. And I didn't really know how I would do that, but I knew I wanted to try and do that. So the basic premise of Arthur Returns is that, it takes place with 20-year-old Arthur after he hasn't visited the Seven Kingdoms basically since Arthur 3. And there's a sort of slightly complex, and added context. It's not that he's chosen to stay away, it's actually that 20-year-old Arthur, for some reason, doesn't actually remember them anymore. He doesn't even know they exist. So, it was... There is an in-story reason that would be revealed later on in the book as to why Arthur doesn't remember them anymore. Is because he's living in England with his parents at the start of the book. And he's at college, and he's really, like, not enjoying it. He's having a hard time, so... Arthur Returns was an exploration of that, and it was sort of what would happen if I wrote an Arthur book that was more adult-themed, because there would be themes within Arthur Returns, that would be explored that would be different from the sort of family friend, not necessarily family friendly, because we all know that there are things in like Arthur 4 and 5 that are definitely a bit more adult themed, as there is in the original franchise as well. Like, it's not really just for kids. There are some dark moments in it. But, although I'd say Arthur 4 was probably, Arthur 4 had a few scenes in it that I don't really think belonged in an Arthur story. Honestly, if I were to rewrite, if I were to write Arthur 4 and 5 now, I'd probably write them, like, completely differently. I'd write them better, obviously, because I've become a much better writer, since writing Arthur 4 and since starting to write Arthur 5. But, I tried, when writing Arthur 4 and 5, to, you know, not necessarily to go too overboard with stuff that wouldn't really belong in an Arthur story, but the sort of stuff in Arthur Returns It doesn't, it's definitely a more adult spin on it, really. It's a lot darker and a lot more emotionally upsetting, I guess, than Arthur 4 and 5 are. Ugh. Yeah, Ben 10's reboot. The thing is, I feel like Ben 10's reboot actually started off bad and then slowly got, like, better and better. But, I feel like it probably worked a little bit better. I feel like because it didn't take itself, like, too seriously, it like treated itself better than, or sort of did better for what it was supposed to be than Omniverse did. Because I make no secret of the fact that I really do not like Omniverse's style. I really don't like the fact that it's all goofy. It really ruins a lot of the aliens and stuff. And the fact that they gave him a bunch of goofy aliens that have no point other to be a gag. It's just not Ben 10. Not to mention the fucking art style. Yeah. Oh. But yeah, I feel like it did get better and better as it went along. And not to mention, there are some things that the reboot did that I really like. Like, first and foremost, I think the best example is Gax. Giving Ben a Vilgax transformation. Because that was something that was teased all the way back in Classic. And I feel like that was something that Omniverse should have tried to do. But they didn't. And I really, really, really like the idea of a Vilgax transformation. Like, I feel like that's... I talked about this at some point. I think I talked about it in the second Ben 10 ranking video of all the, like, other aliens. Like, the reboot ones, the Ultimates, the non-canons, and Kevin's as well. And I think a good time, a good point to do a Vilgax transformation would have been in the 200 episode special in Omniverse, where all the different Bens, like the good Bens and the bad Bens, come together and fight one another. Because Vilgax was in that, and I think having like Ben as a Chimera sui generis transformation versus Vilgax would have been awesome. But alas, it did not happen. So yeah, that's one thing that the reboot did good. I like the Shock Rock arc as well. I think that was... That... You see, the reboot's not completely bad. I feel like generally it's not that good because it's sort of very child, like very younger focused, and therefore didn't really do any of the sort of dark storytelling that the original did. But... it did do some good things, like the Shock Rock arc. That is a very Ben 10 arc to do. Like, the idea of an Omnitrix transformation being, like, part of a hive mind of conquering species and stuff. I really like that. It's definitely a very, Ben 10 storyline to go with. Having Kevin have his own Omnitrix was interesting. with the anti-tricks. Although I'm sad that they didn't really go into that, because if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure they were actually gonna go into, like, how Kevin was able to build that, because apparently he had, like, he just drew down a design that came to him in a dream, and he just built it, like, with scraps in his garage. So I don't know how in fuck he made that. People were saying that it had something to do with Albedo. So I don't know. Kind of sad they didn't get to explore that. Have I ever thought of making a book about Arthur and Selenia's children and make their children be the protagonist of the book? Yes, I have. That has been more than an idea. That has been, one of the things I was planning to do, after Arthur 5. I'll go into a little bit of detail about this, because I said the last time I talked about everything to do with my books and stuff, I said that even if I don't end up finishing Arthur 5, I will tell you guys that, like, the story in some way, shape, or form. Like, I will tell you what I had planned for, like, the rest of the story. So, even if you won't be able to read it, you will know how it ends. But I'll give you some little, I'll give you the sort of plan I had, back in the day. So, plan was, obviously I finished Arthur 4, right, Arthur 5 and Arthur Returns. Arthur Returns wasn't going to get a sequel, that was going to be a standalone thing. After Arthur 5, there was going to be something else that still focused on, the present-day versions of the characters after the events of Arthur 5, and would have served as a way for me to explore a lot of the, how do I put this without giving too much away? It would have been a way for me to explore a lot of different elements of the Arthur universe, in a very efficient way. Because there's only so much that you can fit into, like, one book, like Arthur 5. But since discovering the art book, I was illuminated to so much more that was part of the Arthur franchise, so there was a lot I sort of wanted to cover. But then after that was done, after that whole thing was done, I was actually planning on having, I don't know whether it was going to be a book or multiple books set around the next generation of Minimoy characters, the main protagonist of which would have been Arthur and Selenia's daughter. That was the plan. That was what I had planned originally. Again, I don't know whether that's ever going to end up happening, but that was originally what I was going to end up doing. And it was going to feature, it was actually also going to adapt and sort of continue from stories that were set up in Arthur 5 and in things that were set up in the in-between thing as well. So, yeah. Obviously, I haven't really properly worked on Arthur 5 for a very long time, but don't think, like, just for even for a second that I did not have plans, because I did. I had a lot of plans, because I had, considering back in the day I didn't have, like, basically any time to work on it, because it was during, first it was during high school, then it was during college, then it was during uni, and I had such little time to work on it. I didn't, you know, I had a lot of time to think about all of these ideas, so, you know, yeah, I had a lot of time. My favorite book that I've written, I don't know. I mean, surprisingly, it wouldn't actually be any of the Arthur books because I haven't really written for them. Well, I don't know. It's difficult because I haven't really written multiple chapters of anything other than the Arthur books. Out of the 3 Arthur books, it'd definitely be Arthur 5. Pardon me. But out of everything, I'm not entirely certain. It might be Max Steel Turbified, what I've written for that so far. I'm out already? God damn. Jesus. What do I think of alternate universes in Ben 10? They're really cool. I mean, how can you... I don't really see how you can like, not like them. The alternate universes, shown of Ben in, like, in the 200, two-parter special. Oh, bollocks. They were really cool, the different versions of Ben. Although, then, that's... I'm not sure if that's some of them are a bit cliche. Like, I think some of them are... Oh, I hear a trident. Ah, there you are. Ow. Give me your trident. Oh, he dropped a bit of copper, though. Oh, new recipes, because I haven't picked up a bit of copper yet since the update. Oh, look at this. That's a cool screenshot. Squid, you're ruining my screenshot. It's like the trident in the sand. But yeah, I like the, okay, I like the idea, but as for the ones they actually made in Omniverse, I think they're a bit wacky. Well, maybe not wacky, they're a bit silly. Some of the, like, there's, like, okay, there's a universe where Ben is evil. Okay. Okay, like, I can kind of buy that, but it's like, why is he evil? It's like, Bad Ben was just like Ben with black hair and just like, oh, he's evil. But it's like, why is he evil? Because it's like, that's why I like Ben 23 so much, because he was actually, like, we actually explored his universe and found out, like, why he is the way he is, and his personality and his story makes sense. But it's like, why is Ben evil in... Why is Ben evil in, like, so many universes? Because I feel like something pretty drastic would have to have happened for him to turn evil. Yeah, Ben's morality is just based upon his hair color. That's funny. But it's like, there's a universe where Ben is evil. There's a universe where, like, Ben took over, like, his entire universe. That was Mad Ben. And, you know, that's just a rip-off of Mad Max. So, you know, I don't really like that. I like Mad Ben stylistically, but it's a bit of an unoriginal idea. But, like, I like Ben 23 because he makes sense as a character. Like, he didn't have Grandpa Max, he didn't have Grandpa Max's guidance, so, you know, he sort of had to figure stuff out by himself, and that just led to him doing what he did. So, but, like, a lot of the others don't really make a lot of sense. Like, there's a universe where Ben's a zombie. There's a Ben when... There's a version of Ben where he's literally just, like, goth and edgy. Were there any other evil Bens? There was Bad Ben, God. Bad Ben, Mad Ben, Zombie Ben, and then there was Goth Ben. I'm pretty sure those were the only 4 evil ones. Oh, there was Albedo as well. He was also there, but he's not really an alternate Ben. I don't like it. I've just thought about that. I don't like it how they treated him as an alternate Ben. Like, that whole thing was sort of set up as like, oh, it's a team-up between Vilgax and Eon. But no, it was a team-up between Vilgax, Eon, and Albedo, and they were recruiting all the alternate Bens, because Albedo isn't an alternate Ben. I mean, you could kind of count him as an alternate Ben, because he is a altered version of Ben Tennyson, but he's not Ben, he just looks like Ben. Yes, he sat alone at the lunch table. I understood that reference. So yeah, and like, but like all of the good ones, well, I was gonna say all the good ones make sense. Like Ben 23 makes sense, Gwen 10 makes sense, because we saw an alternate timeline where that happened in Classic anyway. It's not the same one, but it makes sense. But Ben 10K though, I don't really like him. I don't like 10K because I don't like the idea that, because Ben values his transformations so much that the idea of him messing with them like that and like creating the Biomnitrix to fuse them together like that, that doesn't seem like him. Like, I feel like that's not something that Ben would do, because I feel like that's abusing the aliens' like DNA for his own power. So yeah, I don't like that future for Ben. It's definitely my least favorite out of the 3. If the protagonists were Arthur's children, would the book also include Bedamish's kids, or would you assume he wouldn't have kids? Actually, I didn't really think about if Bedamish was gonna have kids or not. I'll be honest, that's not something I considered. But, I don't know. I did have, like, a romance subplot for him in the in-between, between Arthur 5 and the Next Generation books. I do have Cobblestone as well. Oh yeah, I just remembered, that was what I was gonna do, wasn't it? I was gonna, at the end of last week's stream, I remember I was gonna come and fix a bunch of these holes and stuff. It's a bit better. Yeah, fix this one. So yeah, I didn't really consider whether or not Bedamish would have kids. He may have done. But the thing is, Bedamish sort of gets the shaft a lot, when it comes to, like, character development and stuff. And I myself am guilty of this. So, I guess I didn't really think about that. What do I think about alien gimmicks, Omni-enhanced, Omni-kicks, and Omni-naught? I'm okay with gimmicks. I don't like the reboot gimmicks, because they were very unrealistic. Like, I don't like any of the reboot gimmicks. But as for the original series gimmicks, I like fusions. I liked fusions in the original series. I do not like them in Omniverse, for the reasons I just stated. I'm a fan of Ultimates, although I think they were very underutilized. Like, the show was meant to be all about Ultimates, and it didn't really seem like it was about Ultimates, like, at all, so I'm gonna fill this in as well. But yeah, I like Ultimates. But the thing is about gimmicks, and Kuro said it best, gimmicks, gimmicks aren't really a very, like, again, like, I'm okay with Ultimates, and I'm alright with how they treated fusions in the original, not with Ben 10K. Yeah, like, someone like an alternate version of Ben, like, if an alternate version of Ben that was evil could do that, I'd be 100% fine with it, because I'd be like, oh, he modified his Omnitrix. Maybe that was a version of Ben who, like, later on, because obviously the whole thing with fusions started off with Dr. Animo and the Mutant Ray, where they had the one episode where they did fusions as, like, a mistake, thanks to Ben breaking the Omnitrix. But maybe, like, you could have a version of Ben that did that, and then later on did it again purposefully, because, like, or maybe did it and didn't get it fixed, so that, or maybe did it, and I'm saying a lot of hypotheticals here, maybe did it in that episode, and, because Grandpa Max got mutated in that episode, maybe the version of Ben that used fusions came from a version of the universe where he wasn't able to cure Grandpa Max and he ended up dying, and it would be his fault because he was fucking about with the Omnitrix, and Animo used the Omnitrix dial to mutate Max, and maybe that would push him to be evil. Just stuff like that. But yeah, so, yeah, and then he grows resentful and he, like, hates himself and then he turns evil because of it. I think that would be awesome. But, yeah, so I like Ultimates. I'm alright with fusions, just not for Ben 10K. It doesn't really seem like something he'd do. But, like, Ultimates for, like, it makes sense for Albedo to have, like, Ultimates, or maybe Well, I don't know. I was going to say Albedo to have fusions, but I think it would have been better to give an alternate, like, evil Ben that. Because Ultimates is sort of Albedo's thing. I am glad that he got Ultimates back in Omniverse. I'm glad they brought them back. That was one thing that Omniverse did do good. Although, in fairness, it didn't do the Ultimates themselves good. Because some of the Ultimates that were introduced in Omniverse were not good. Like, Ultimate Wrath wasn't amazing. Ultimate Arctiguana was, like, in my opinion, like, the worst Ultimate ever. He was just so stupid. Therapist 10. Honestly, I think all of the Bens could do with a decent bit of therapy. Given, like, what they went through at 10 years old. But yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Well, not all of the evil Bens have the Omniverse watch. Most of them do. Bad Ben does. Goth Ben does. I was thinking, like, what is Goth Ben's name? But he has a name that can be easily misinterpreted into a very bad slur, so we'll just call him Goth Ben. But yeah, Bad Ben does, Mad Ben does, Goth Ben does, Zombie Ben. What is Zombie Ben's name? I've completely forgotten. Benzaro, that's the one. That's his name. But yeah, Benzaro doesn't have the Omniverse Omnitrix. His Omnitrix looks unique, so he could have had something different happen to him. Maybe Benzaro had something to do with the Inert aliens. Like, maybe because he's a zombie, so, you know. Maybe he was one of, like, Frankenstrike's species. That's the thing, we never get any backstory for any of these guys. We get backstory for Ben 23, and I guess you could kind of argue... Well, no, I was gonna say you could argue Mad Ben, but just because we go to his dimension doesn't mean we get any backstory from him. We still don't know why he did what he did. And I'd argue that the evil ones are a lot more interesting than the good ones, because it's like, what happened in their lives to make them evil? Because I feel like all of the bad Bens are just, like, so characterless. Like, Bad Ben is literally just Omniverse Ben, but evil. Goth Ben is literally Ben, but evil, and also a goth. Mad Ben is also just Bad Ben, but evil, but also Australian, and also a rip-off of Mad Max. So, you know, it's just... None of them are really characters. They're just concepts, and really bad ones at that. When I read the art book, what was something that surprised me? Honestly, like, everything. It surprised me, just how much they'd thought of. And how much there was, like, that they built up to do with the universe that didn't end up getting into the movies, like, at all. Like, the Sorcerer. Like, he's someone that my Arthur fans should know pretty well from the 10th Moon livestream series that I do, obviously. As he's currently the main villain. Like, him and his army of blind reptiles, like, that's something that's in the art book. That's something that was thought up by the people that were making the Arthur universe. So I think, if anything, it'd probably have to be that. But there's a lot of great stuff in there. Like, the whole thing about Minimoys gradually turning into stone as they get older. And, like, when they die of old age, basically. And... I think one of the coolest things, though, is that Malthazar had his own sword of power, basically. It was called the Blade of War. Like, that is one of my favorite things, out of anything in the art book. Yeah, they turned into weeping angels, yeah. It's a good idea for, like, an Arthur, like, horror episode. If, like, dark magic, like, infests the statues of dead Minimoys and they, like, start coming to life and stuff. Ugh. Ugh. Weeping pensioners. How far did I get on the Malediction rewrite? I never started it. Because I haven't seen Malediction. I can't do a rewrite of something I haven't seen. And I was gonna... The whole thing was me doing a reaction video. Like, watching Malediction for the first time. And I haven't done that yet. I will do it, eventually. But obviously, you know, until I watch it, I can't do the rewrite. Junglewood. Ah. I actually did start writing a Ben 10 continuation over the past couple of days. Don't know if I'm gonna, like, publish it or anything. But I've called it Ben 10 Legacies. And it's basically an alternate to Omniverse that takes place after, UAF. But it is just my version, basically, because... I've talked about this before, like literally in the past couple of live streams, actually. Writing a continuation of Ben 10 is difficult for me because, well, no, not copying Kuro, because Kuro is brave enough to try and write a continuation set after Omniverse. I'm not brave enough to do that. And in fairness, I don't really want to do that because I despise so much of what Omniverse did that I'm not willing to say that most of it is canon. Like, I'm not willing to say, that, you know, I'm trying to think of all the, like, the main problems I have with Omniverse. Like, I'm not willing to say that Ben gaining full control of Alien X happened in such a underwhelming moment. I'm not willing to say that Ben recreated the universe, like, and was the only survivor from his original universe and didn't give a shit. I'm not willing to say that all of that is canon because I don't like any of that. So UAF is salvageable. Omniverse isn't. Don't get me wrong, Omniverse did a lot of good. Like, Malware was one of the best parts of Omniverse. Like, he he is by far the best Omniverse villain, but it's not, like, he doesn't save Omniverse for me. And on top of that, like, the fucking Kevin retcon as well. Like, they really cannot fucking, like, decide what they want Kevin to be. Like, first he was just born with his powers, but he was a human. Then he was an Osmosian. Then he was just a mutant again. Like, and, like, his dad doesn't, like, according to fucking Omniverse, his dad doesn't even fucking exist. Like, fucking Cervantes was just like, oh yeah, I implanted the memory of Kevin's dad in Max's brain, and it's just like, well, did you implant it on, like, Ragnarok's brain as well, and Kevin's, and Kevin's mum? Like, you can't just retcon, like, an entire person, especially not when it's someone who, like, genuinely exists. Like, Devin was Kevin's dad and Max's partner and was killed by Ragnarok and was obviously the husband of Kevin's mom as well. You can't just retcon that entire thing by saying, haha, Max, false memories. Because so many different people know of his existence. That doesn't work. Yeah, I like Osmosian best as well. Plus, it sort of matches with Aggregor as well. Like, you can't just say that Osmosians don't exist. Like, the whole lore with the Osmosians and stuff, with, like, Aggregor and stuff, is really cool. Like, the whole thing about, oh yeah, too much power drives Osmosians, like, insane and stuff. And it was just like a lie thought up by our people to keep the powerful in check and stuff. Like, that's cool, and that's just like, nah, he's a mutant. What's the point? It's just, yeah. So yeah, I don't know whether I'm, like, because here's the thing, I did want to talk about this. Writing a Ben 10 continuation is like, if I choose to go through with it, excuse me. If I choose to go through with it, it will be the most difficult continuation I've ever written. Because Ben 10, despite how much I love it, and I really do love it, it's not something I have an intrinsic knowledge of. And I usually only write stuff for stuff that I have an intrinsic knowledge of, because that allows me to do the best job. And because it allows me to think critically about the characters that I'm writing, and it allows me to think about, like, what would be the best option to write and the best way to write these characters. And I can't really do that with Ben 10 because I don't have an intrinsic knowledge of Ben 10. So I got, fog in my throat. My sinuses are blocked up again. Because it's like, say, like, Max Steel, like, pretty much everything else I've written for, actually. Arthur, Max Steel, Dinosaur King, literally everything. I have an intrinsic knowledge of those characters. I know them, like, literally back to front, like the back of my hand. And that allows me to write the best stuff that I can, because I can be critical. I can use that knowledge to be critical about the franchise that I'm writing about and write the best version of that franchise's continuation that I can. Like with Dinosaur King, like I've talked about this before, the whole thing that I am not a fan of how other people, like how a lot of other people write their Dinosaur King continuations, and it's like, fair dues if, you know, you write whatever you want to write, but a lot of the stuff other people write isn't really, it doesn't fit with Dinosaur King, and I've talked at length about that before. Oh, lag. But because I have, like, an intrinsic knowledge about Dinosaur King, I've seen every episode, and I know all the characters back to front. I know, like, every iteration of them, what they've been through, and their personalities and stuff. It allows me to think critically about how to best... It allows me to come up with a story that fits logically within the Dinosaur King universe, I guess, and to think critically about how best to utilize the characters within that continuation. And it's the same with Max Steel as well. And Max Steel actually makes it even a little bit easier due to the fact that it has a bad continuation. Because after season 3, it's like the series just goes to shit. And it's just like, okay, well, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do for Turbified? That's very simple. Everything that season 4 and 5 didn't do. Like, it's like the fucking Russian Badger meme when he's talking about, like, Rainbow Six extraction in comparison to Halo Reach. And he's like, right, so it's just like, right, we need a good Max Steel, god damn it. I can't speak half the time, you guys know this. But it's like, let me take a drink, first off. It's much better. So it's like, right, we need a good Max Steel continuation. So let's take season 4 and 5 of Max Steel and do none of that. Max Steel Turbified. That's literally it. That's the meme. But it's so true. That's literally how you make a good Max Steel continuation. Just take season 4 and 5 and do none of it. And just carry on from, on, mate. Just carry on from where season 3 left off, with the Duo Strike modes and the Exo modes and Max learning about Tachyon and Turbo Energy from his father. And just stuff like that. There's so much in Max... Like, Max Steel makes it pretty easy to write a good continuation. Like, there's so much in Max Steel that was left sort of unexplored. First and foremost being, the Black Star Council, in my opinion. Because it's like, they were they were talked about a lot as well. Like, they were properly being set up to be like the next overarching antagonist after Makino, and then they just didn't utilize them. The thing is, I guess it's kind of difficult. It's difficult to like take a step back from Morphos, who was like technically like even more deadly than Makino, I guess you could say. Because he was like the ultimate threat. Like, he could absorb Max's powers and the powers of all of his villains and turn them against him. So it's kind of difficult to come up with a villain that's like that's it's difficult to top that. But the thing is, I think the problem with, Mortem, sorry. The problem with Mortem is that, like, he seems like a competent villain. Like, I believe that Mortem could take down Entech. I do not believe for a second that he would be, like, any challenge whatsoever for, Max and Steel. And the thing is, in the first Team Turbo movie, they basically don't even fight Mortem. They spend, like, the entirety of that movie, basically, fighting the other villains who are working for Mortem. So, I don't really, they didn't really even fight him until the second one, and then he's all weird. Yeah, I tell you what, Race Against Time and Alien Swarm are very much underrated. Because I love Race Against Time. Race Against Time, like, if I go full forward and, like, full steam ahead and write Ben 10 Legacies, Race Against Time is gonna be canon. Because I love Race Against Time. My favorite moment, and I have briefly talked about this in the dim and distant past, I think it was during a live stream of The Trail, actually. But my favorite moment, I think, in the entirety of the Ben 10 franchise is actually Eon corrupting the Omnitrix and, like, slowly forming his own silhouette on the Omnitrix, turning it purple, and transforming Ben into a genetic duplicate of himself. That's my favorite moment of the entirety of Ben 10. And yeah, that's gonna be canon. Thing is, I feel like you could pretty easily make Race Against Time canon. Like, I feel like there isn't that much that warrants it not being canon. There were a few things, like the whole thing with Eon, like, having hunted Ben for so long, and, like, Max knowing that Ben was gonna be the one to find the Omnitrix because Eon name-dropped him. So, you get rid of that, but I feel like it's pretty easy to integrate Race Against Time into the canon. Yeah, that's a good scene. I love that pitch. Like, he's, time, silly Diamond Bolt. Time gods don't have time for driver's ed. But the thing about Eon is, I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and I think I'm actually going to make a full video on this, but I don't actually see it as being that complex to combine Race Against Time Eon with Ben 10,000 Returns UAF Eon, because Race Against Time Eon was a Cronian trying to bring his race back, like from another universe or dimension into this dimension, or universe, whichever one you think. I'd probably say universe, personally. And then a lot of people, from what he was saying to Ben in Race Against Time, a lot of people misinterpreted that as being, oh, Eon is Ben. And he's like, no, that's not actually true. He said, like, you are me, but it's like, that's not really true. It's like, Ben will become Eon because he's gonna put his DNA into the Omnitrix and, you know, overwhelm him and keep him transformed permanently. But then in UAF, they actually make him an alternate version of Ben. So here's what I propose, right? So that quote is a bit misleading. You could take that as him saying, like, it's an endless loop. But that wouldn't really make sense, because in order for it to be an endless loop, the Eon that Ben becomes would have already had to have succeeded. So that doesn't really make any sense. So a better quote would have been, like, he's going to become Ben, but Eon is not Ben. But then in UAF, Eon is actually Ben. He's an alternate version of Ben. Now, here's what I'm proposing. Eon is actually Ben, but he comes from a different universe where instead of being a human, he was a Cronian. He was, like, it's just an alternate version of Ben, where he never got the Omnitrix. He never got the Omnitrix, and he just happened to be, like, the leader of his race. Like, it doesn't have to be, like, an alternate Ben, as in, like, oh, he had an Omnitrix, but something went wrong. Like, he can just be an alternate version of Ben that was a Cronian. I'm not necessarily saying I like the idea of him being an alternate version of Ben, because, frankly, I don't really like that idea, but, you know, that's the sort of way to salvage it. That's not what I'm gonna do for Ben 10 Legacies, though. In Ben 10 Legacies, the episode Ben 10,000 Returns is not canon. I'm fully gonna state that episode is just not canon. And because that just makes Eon, like, unsalvageable. Plus, Eon kind of, like, died. In UAF anyway, so... Yeah, I'm not really familiar with 5YL Eon. Let me have a quick look. Eon. Let's have a look. See how, let's see what Kuro's done with him. Right, so yeah, he is a Cronian. He traveled through the hands of Armageddon to find their race a new home. He's a young, gifted Cronian. Yeah, the Cronians were masters of breaking the laws of physics. Their universe collapsed. They chose Eon to travel through the hands of Armageddon to find the university version of the hands, and power it from the other side to bring them all to a new utopia. Okay, so that's bringing the whole... That's the whole bringing the Cronians into the universe thing. Eon found Ben's multiverse during his 4,000-year journey to free his people. However, after countless leaps through reality, his body grew weaker and weaker. He could no longer power the hands from the other side. Through his voyage across the multiverse, he learned of the Omnitrix, a device that Eon predicted could create a new Cronian to replace himself in his travel. So that's basically what Race Against Time did. He'd battled Ben countless times. Every failure, he would go back in time and try again, until one try finally worked. He transformed him into a Cronian, and was reborn anew. To ensure that Ben didn't take control over the body, Eon broke the Omnitrix so he can never transform. However, the solution would only be temporary, as his new body would one day fall too. Okay, so instead of Ben taking control back, after changing into a Cronian, he broke the Omnitrix so he wouldn't change back. Right. Every time his body would reach its limits, he would go to a new universe and obtain another Ben Tennyson. Eon made himself a base where he would keep Ben Tennysons he collected and advance. Some he used as slaves, others he would experiment on. Eon's fate became so intertwined with Ben that he started to believe that he was Ben Tennyson. Okay, I like that. So it's... I will give them credit. I'll give Kuro credit where credit is due. He really does know how to salvage, like, what Ben 10 is fucked up. Like, that's another reason why I was hesitant to write a Ben 10 continuation, because Ben 10 is the messiest franchise I've ever really gotten into. Like, retcons and fucking, like, retcons and remakes and changes to the continuity left, right, and fucking center, and it's just a mess. Not to mention the mess that is character development. Right. Okay, yeah, so I'll give them credit where credit is due. Like, they really do know how to salvage, they really do know how to salvage shit that Ben 10 manages to fuck up. But yeah, so, okay, well, I'll say this, in Ben 10 Legacies, if I go ahead and I do commit to it and, like, write it, Eon will make an appearance. It will be strictly the version of, it will be strictly the version of Eon from Race Against Time, not the version from, not the version from UAF. And I have my own, I have my own idea on how to bring him back. It's going to be quite cool. Anyway, Favorite Arthur and Selenia scene in Arthur 4 and 5? That's a difficult one. There's a lot of good ones. The Midnight Reunion is a pretty good one. Just because that's very, you know, heavily romantic and nice for them. But... I do really like I do really like the two of them facing the second trial together. I really do like that. That's definitely one of my favorite moments. Just because that was a moment that they really had to be there for one another. Plus, that was the first scene of Arthur 5 that I ever came up with, so it has a special place in my heart. You want to ask about soul clothes? I'm happy to talk about this because this is actually kind of a funny thing, and I might actually have to look up my own look back on my own work to see what I wrote about this. Yeah, here we go. So, Soul Clothes... Okay, I'll say it. Arthur 4 is not my best work. Like, presently, so many years after writing Arthur 4, which, might I add, this September, it will be 6 years since I wrote Arthur 4. My god, how time flies. But Arthur 4 was definitely rushed. I didn't think a lot of things through. Same with Arthur 5, honestly. There's a lot of things I would have done differently. On me. But Soul Clothes were basically just an excuse for Arthur to have cool-looking clothes in the Minimoy world from the get-go, as opposed to him having to... on me. As opposed to him having to go there and then put on cool clothes. Because I noticed that regardless of what Arthur was wearing when he transformed into a Minimoy, he's wearing the same clothes as a Minimoy at all times. So, I wanted to come up with something that would bypass that. And so I came up with the idea of Soul Clothes. Not the best name. And this is where I had to come up with some quite, like, complex lore that, honestly, I don't really even like now. Like, I probably will, if I go back to writing my Arthur books, I probably actually will retcon this. But I don't really know how I'd retcon it, because it physically, like, the clothes transformed. I don't really know how I'd retcon that. Okay, well, actually, I could just retcon it into the, like, the Bogo Metasalai. Okay, well, I probably ought to explain it first. Basically, I had to come up with a really complex workaround to make this work, because first, I needed to explain why Arthur keeps the same clothes when he transforms from human to Minimoy, despite having different clothes when he was a human, before he transformed. So basically, my explanation for this, I'm going to read directly from Arthur 4 now. you end up with the same clothing in their world, the Seven Kingdoms, despite your clothing in this world, because you are not simply changing from person to Minimoy. In essence, you are two different people. When the telescope transports you through the receptacle into the Minimoy world, your life energy is passed through and manifests itself in Minimoy form, while your human soul is left behind, remaining in the human world, waiting for your return. Your Minimoy clothes do not change because you have never changed them in your Minimoy form. So basically, the way I understand it, the way I understand what I wrote myself, again, it's been 6 years, basically, you're, like, when you pass through the telescope and transform from human to Minimoy, your life energy passes through, but your soul as a human is left behind, and you gain the soul of a Minimoy. And this was actually quite integral for the finale, because in the finale, the professor, how he turns into the demon and gains his powers is by gaining the soul of a Minimoy and a human at the same time, by combining a growth potion and a shrinking potion. Because a growth potion is transforming. I didn't really think that through at the time. I guess it wouldn't really be leaving your soul behind. It would just sort of be granting you a Minimoy soul. And I guess just pushing your human soul to the side. And keeping it in the ether, I guess. So that would be a shrinking potion, and the growth potion would just be the opposite. Like, storing your Minimoy soul in the ether and then giving you a human soul, basically. Although that doesn't necessarily work for people like Darkos, who don't have a human form because they're corrupted Minimoys, and I think that's to do with them being, I headcanoned it, that the reason that Darkos doesn't have a Minimoy form, doesn't have a human form, sorry, when he grows, is because he's part insect, so that part of him stops him from becoming human. Because I've always headcanoned it that Minimoys can become human at the same way as humans can become Minimoys, but the insect part of Darkos stops him from gaining a human form. Now, as for the soul clothes, they've been enchanted so that they change form into something more suitable and something flashier once you pass through the receptacle. And in order to look flashy, like in Arthur 4, Arthur has the suit made of white leaves, but in order for it to be that way, it has to transform from one thing into another thing, and the thing that it transforms from needs to be different, and that's why it was all brown and ugly and everything. But yeah, I don't really like that, to be honest. I could have just given him like a suit, like a white suit, and the equivalent of that suit that it transformed into was the white leaf suit. But I just sort of wanted, pardon me, I just sort of wanted to try and expand upon that aspect of the franchise that wasn't really explored properly. Like, why does Arthur have the same clothes as a Minimoy as he does as a human? But to be honest, I'm not really sure I even agree with that, explanation anymore. So, yeah. But anyway, that's it explained. Whether or not, you know, it's a good idea, that's a different matter, but that's how it works. Yeah, so we're out of bones. I'm considering whether or not I just wait until I have enough to do it all in one go, but I think I'm gonna continue. But Arthur's very, the thing is, Arthur's a very good franchise to do, like, to write continuations of, or just general stories about in general, because there's just so much, like, there's so much supplementary lore. Like, it's genuinely insane how much, like, background lore there is. And you can mix and match all of that lore however you choose, and, you know, write stories about so much of it or so little of it. Or just come up with your own stuff. Although, again, like, this goes back to what I've discussed previously, and there we go, I'm out already. That was basically, like 1 and a bit layers. What do you mean, the thing I liked about the franchise? I like everything about the franchise. I like its setting, I like its characters, I like its story, I like the universe it's set within. There's not really any one thing I like more than anything else. I haven't even done this bit yet either. I kind of like this, though, because it has a sort of, like, scaffolding, like, unfinished, in-progress build feel to it. Ooh, steak, lovely. And that did fill it up, lovely. Just checking to make sure I don't have, anything. I'll tell you what, I probably ought to go mine a bit of wood to get some more charcoal for the smoker. I probably ought to also go and breed the cows. It's midday as well. God, I swear, days in Minecraft can sometimes go so slowly and so quickly at the same time. My first reaction after finding out there were 3 movies. Well, you know my first reaction. My first reaction was, right, Arthur 4. My immediate thing was to just become obsessed with it. And I just started looking up fan fictions and found that there were no good ones, obviously, back then. And then pretty much immediately, I started writing Arthur 4. And at some point, I also made that tech story video that started off the Casual Prince. Yeah. I think that's one of the videos that actually survived the great copyright purge as well. Oh yeah, definitely, Fitz. You're definitely right about that. Like, I mean, in fairness, that's half my motivation for, a lot of my continuations anyway. It definitely was for Arthur 4. No questions asked. Well, it was half of it for Arthur 4. The other half was obviously carrying on the story because I was so obsessed with it that I needed to give it a continuation. It's sort of half and half with, it's half and half for Max Steel, and it's more sided towards, again, I'm going to sound like an asshole saying this, but for Dinosaur King, it's definitely more, towards the side of I don't like how a lot of other people do their fanfictions for Dinosaur King, and I don't think they feel like Dinosaur King, so I'm just like, I want to have a stab at it, because I think I could do a really good job. Was the plot of Arthur 4 always the same, or did it change? As far as I know, as far as I remember, I don't think it ever changed. I'm pretty sure I just came, because, like, I introduced, because I had the idea, my main idea for, the villain, like, I based the idea of Arthur 4 around the villain I was going to have, and the villain I wanted to have was a villain that could impact Arthur in a way that Malthazar never could. In the same sort of way that Davido could. And that was bring Arthur's, like, entire world crumbling down, and that was exposing the Minimoys to the world. Which obviously, eventually, he decided not to go through with. But obviously, I introduced the Professor quite early on. I think it was at the end of Chapter 2, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Yeah, Arthur 4 really did not have a lot of build-up. Like, I did the prologue. Actually, funny thing, I actually did the prologue after I did Chapter 1. Chapter 1 came first, and then I went back and did the prologue. Yeah, the, Chapter 1, which I never edited, was published on, I need to learn to tab out properly. Chapter 1 was August the 21st, 2018. Okay, no, well, that's not right. I guess I must have gone back and edited it a little bit more at some point. Yeah, Chapter 1, was much earlier than August. Yeah. I really wish I could see when I actually, Visions. Oh, here we go. Well, I can't really see when I first published it. I'll probably be able to see if there's, like, a big gap. It seems as though I may have published it on June 4th, but I think that seems far too late. Anyway, Chapter 1 came first, then the prologue. I think chapter 1 and 2 came first, and then the prologue. I'm not sure. But, like, chapter 3 already had Arthur going to the Seven Kingdoms, but for Arthur 5, I properly took my time with the build-up, and, Arthur didn't get to the Seven Kingdoms until chapter 9. So I introduced the professor really early on, and I basically already knew how the story was gonna end. So I just basically planned the in-between of that. But Arthur 5 is the story that went through a few different changes. Originally, it was going to be something entirely different. Like, Arthur 5 is the story that had a completely different, iteration. Like, excuse me, because Arthur 4 basically, the plot never changed as far as I remember. I don't think I did anything that really, I don't think I really ever changed the plot. I had one plot, and I sort of had a beginning, an ending, a villain, and I made up the rest as I went along, really. And it's funny because one of the best moments, for Arthur and Selenia was actually done by accident. Ow. Ow. Oh, hey, Marathon. Ugh. But one of the, one of the best moments, between Arthur and Selenia actually happened purely by accident due to my incompetence of not properly planning Arthur 4, because you remember the chapter A Stormy Night Alone with Selenia, where Arthur gives Selenia the ring that he got for her, that he was intending to give her during, like, the whole 10th moon festivities, and ow, just, I'm trying to itch my nose, I'm, like, scratch the inside of it, ugh. And, as was pointed out to me, was actually the first time they actually said that they loved each other. They'd never said that before, and I've always, like, kicked myself for not making a bigger deal about that, because that was a major thing that I just sort of glossed over, because I didn't really think about it at the time. It's a fully golden armored Skelly there. I would try and keep him, but it'd be a little bit too much effort. But yeah, so yeah, Marathon, we've been talking so much about, like, my Arthur books and everything, and, like, the history and stuff. Ugh. Abraham's been giving me some good questions to answer. But yeah, that entire scene, well, not the scene itself. The scene was still gonna happen, where they, like, reconciled and everything. Oh, God. Oh, now my sinuses are itchy. But, not the scene itself, but giving her the ring, that was unplanned, because like I said, it was going to be a ring that Arthur was going to give her at the 10th moon festivities, but then, obviously, the professor attacked the First Kingdom, kidnapped everyone, everything went to shit, and he never got to. And then I literally forgot about the ring up until this point, and then I was like, wait a minute, didn't I have Arthur, like, get that ring that he was going to give to Selenia? And I went back and realized that I'd never... I'd never addressed, like, what happened to that ring. And I think I might have actually, Ow. Ow. Stop it. Stop pushing me into a hole. Ow. Yeah, I probably should have lured him to Fred Bob. Oh, there'll be other golden skeletons. We can headcanon it that they came back to life. Seeing as, you know, that's what skeletons tend to do in Minecraft. But, Throb. Yeah, it sounds a bit like Throb. But yeah, so I remember this, because I remember the day that I was writing this scene. And I remember thinking to myself, wait a minute. And like remembering the ring, and I remember I was so excited because I was just like, oh my god, I forgot to do anything with the ring, but because I forgot to like establish what happened to the ring, I can reintroduce it right here, and it's the perfect time for it. So yeah, that's what I did. So, technically, one of the best moments between Arthur and Selenia with that ring was actually purely due to me not planning Arthur 4. He has a sword. Finally, a worthy opponent. Our battle will be legendary! He's dead. So yeah, that's a fun bit of I don't recall whether or not I've ever talked about that before. I bequeath to you my handful of sand. Yeah, literally just like So yeah, but yeah, Arthur 5, that was the plot that changed, because, and I've definitely talked about this before, the original story, the first story I had for Arthur 5, because, oh god, there's a chicken jockey, it's a zombie jockey, or whatever they're called. What are they called? I'm pretty sure they're called, oh, I didn't mean to kill a chicken as well. Oh, feathers! We can finally put a picture of feathers on the feathers chest. So I never usually kill chickens. But yeah, Arthur 5 was the one that went through the changes, because originally, I was obviously planning it to be the grand finale. And the original plan, yeah, you see, Marathon, I've always gone back and forth on that scene, and I'm not sure I really even like that scene, because I think I don't know. I mean, it kind of, if you consider, like, Arthur sort of, I've never really thought about this, but if that zombie's holding a bow. Oh god, they're manning up, they're arming themselves. He dropped it as well. If you consider the scene in Arthur 3 where Arthur kind of loses his temper with Selenia and Bedemish when they're arguing, I guess there is sort of precedent for a scene like that to exist. I think maybe the thing I have a problem with is that I don't think Selenia would ever tell him to shut up. I don't think that's something she would ever do. Maybe Arthur 1 Selenia would do that, but not anything, not any version of her past that. Yeah, no version of Selenia past that would say that. So, I'll fully admit that my interpretations of the characters in my books are not perfect. It's like that quote from Kuro in the Ben 10 breakdown of his, I think it's the one, where he's talking about the Guantanamo Bay, episode, where it's like, we go from episodes about, like, Stockholm Syndrome, to Dr. Animo's chicken farm and cloning yourself to lie to your girlfriend. And I feel like Arthur 5 kind of dips between that quite a bit. It goes from serious to light-hearted quite a lot. Like, we go from scenes talking about, we go from, like, the scene, trying to think now. Yeah, we go from, like, the scene where Selenia is, like, explaining to, well, she's not really explaining. She is explaining within the canon, but you guys are reading it as, like, a flashback. We go from chapters about, Selenia explaining the very emotional, like, trauma that she has from failing to pull out the Sword of Power, resulting in her own mother's death, and the scars on her face that she has from that, to, like, like, the entirety of the group, like, sliding down the pipe, like, playing with each other, like, messing about with one another. Even in that same chapter as well, in chapter, what is it, 22? Yeah, the second trial, 22. We go from, like, them sliding down the pipe, like, having fun with one another, to Selenia having a panic attack, and Arthur and Selenia almost drowning, so... Oh, excuse me. So yeah, it really does... I do sort of flip-flop between light-hearted and, you know, very much not light-hearted. Yeah, I keep getting sidetracked. The original plan for Arthur 5 was to have M reintroduced as the main villain, which sort of would have defeated the point of his role in Arthur 4, because, M's role in Arthur 4 was basically his last hurrah as a main villain, because he was a main villain throughout Arthur 1, 2, and 3, although you could argue he wasn't really a main villain in Arthur 2 because of how little screen time he had. I guess you could say actually, I'd say the main villain in Arthur 2 was probably Arthur's dad. Because he was the sort of antagonist that caused all of the stuff that went wrong to go wrong. And I suppose you could maybe throw the unicorns in there as well. But, so yeah, M was the main villain throughout, let's say 1 and 3, but he was the villain in 2 as well. He was the overarching villain throughout the first 3 movies, so it's like, right, I don't want to, you know, I don't really want to keep having M as the villain because it will get repetitive and boring, so that's why I sort of made him the secondary villain of Arthur 4, so that he could have one last hurrah as a villain, but not a main villain, and then after that, he would sort of fade into the shadows a little bit. But then, weirdly enough, despite that, my original idea for Arthur 5 was gonna have M as the main villain, so I don't really know what I was thinking back then. Because that wasn't even something that I was like, the whole M being like a secondary villain for the purpose of giving him one last hurrah and then sort of not really making him a villain at all in Arthur 5. That wasn't even something that came like around the time in Arthur 5. That was basically my idea from the get-go, because the whole thing, I read so many fan fictions where it's just like, it was literally the same as Palpatine from The Rise of Skywalker. It was literally like somehow Malthazar returned levels of writing. So I didn't want to do anything like that. So it's like, new villain, sort of coax Malthazar out of being a villain. And then move on. But weirdly enough, my final idea for... Not my final idea, sorry. My original idea for Arthur 5... I promise you I will get to actually saying what it is. Was basically that it was going to take place in Africa, where the Minimoys were originally from. And M was going to travel back to Africa. God knows how he'd do that, by the way. Because he's a Minimoy, obviously. God knows how you'd travel from Connecticut to Africa as a Minimoy. Like, that would take long enough as a human, fucking let alone a Minimoy. But, well, I'm pretty sure I confirmed back in the day that Malthazar will appear in Arthur 5 at some point. I don't know whether I confirmed that or not, but he will. Yeah, so I don't know how I was planning to get him from the Seven Kingdoms, where we left off with him. Because we left off with him in Arthur 4, obviously, shrinking back down into a Minimoy and being free again. And then we don't really know what happened to him after that. We know that Darkos went looking for him. That's why he hasn't been seen in Arthur 5 either. But, my initial plan was that Malthazar was going to go back to Africa looking for something. I think I called it the Heart of the Minimoys. And it was like this ancient source of Minimoy magic that was left behind in Africa. And he was going to go looking for that. And basically, Arthur, Selenia, and Betamish would have to follow him to Africa. And there, they would discover that some of the Minimoys were actually left behind by Archibald, which to me doesn't really make a lot of sense either, because I'm pretty sure he wouldn't have left any of them behind. And basically, they would have to battle through this entirely new landscape, like the original Seven Kingdoms, basically. But I didn't do that because, for multiple reasons. One, it doesn't really make a lot of sense for Malthazar to randomly, like, be in Africa. I don't know, maybe there was some sort of teleporter, like a gateway or something that they took with them. And on top of that, it didn't really, to me, feel like a finale. Like, it didn't really even feel like an Arthur story to me, right? Feathers. There we go. We now have an icon for the feathers. Nice. But yeah, it didn't really even feel... Yeah, he snuck aboard someone's private jet, yeah. But yeah, it didn't really even feel like an Arthur story. Like, for the grand finale, why would I, like, leave the Seven Kingdoms? Because it would probably only be, like, Arthur, Selenia, Bedamish, maybe Darkos as well. So it would literally just be those four and none of the other characters that we've come to know just, like, fucking off to Africa and not, like... And Arthur's family basically having, like, no influence on the story. And none of the other Minimoy characters, like Max or the King or, like, anyone else. And I just feel like that was... It's not the finale. Considering back then I was trying to make Arthur 5, sorry, the finale. That definitely is not the finale that, you know, I was trying to make. So I sort of was on the fence with that idea, and then I listened to the piece of music that let me come up with the moment from the second trial, which, most of you probably know this by now, because I did it as a sort of, I literally left a comment on Arthur 5, pointing out that it was the first scene I concepted for Arthur 5. But I was listening to a specific piece of music. I remember the day as well, like it was yesterday. I was on the bus ride home from college one day, and it was a random bit of music from a dolphin's tale, I think it was. I think it might have been a dolphin... What is it? I'm not going to play the music because then the stream will get copyrighted. Let's see. I still can't believe I managed to make a chapter that was 19,000 words. I'm a lunatic. It's because you guys hadn't had one in so long. Right, yeah, go through the pipe. The thing is, I could probably make the pipe scene where they're sliding down, like, an entire chapter. I genuinely could. Where is it? Is it here? No, not there. Is it... Here it is. Yeah, so, it was difficult for his mind to comprehend what was happening, but somehow as he looked at Selenia, he didn't just see her. He saw everything. As the wavy rays of light danced over her skin, he somehow saw within those rays her entire life so far unfolding in the dancing patterns of light. And he didn't just see her life within the light, he saw his own. he saw the two of them. Somehow reflected in the light that brushed her skin, Arthur saw how far they'd come. Their battles, their losses, their victories, every kiss they'd ever shared, and every tear they'd ever shed. That part right there was the very, very first ever scene that I concepted for Arthur 5. Everything that Arthur 5 is and became was built off of that scene. And it was inspired by a bit of music. Yeah, it was the first on me. It was a bit of soundtrack from Dolphin Tale called Chumash Story. I'll put the link in chat if anyone wants to go listen to it for some reason. But yeah, that's so yeah, that's the music that inspired Arthur 5. Literally, the whole thing came from this one bit of music. So I was just listening to that bit of music, and my mind just created a scene where, like, Arthur and Selenia were swimming together underwater, and just looking at one another, and, like, from that scene, I built everything. So it's like, okay, that scene is gonna be in Arthur 5. Why are they underwater? Where are they? Like, how are they underwater? What are they trying to do underwater? And from that, I built, like, the trial thing, and then I came up with Mulder, because after the whole thing with the Professor, I wanted for Arthur 5, I wanted a villain that was a lot more, that fitted a lot more with the Arthur universe. Not that I think that the Professor didn't fit with the Arthur universe. I think the Professor is a very Arthur-ish villain, because his threat was a very specific one, and it was like, he, like, in most things, he wouldn't be a very threatening villain. Like, he was basically just a guy. But in the Arthur universe, obviously, you know, he would have been able to bring Arthur's entire world, like, crashing down, because, like, his entire, like, life, like, the purpose for his existence is, in his eyes, all about the Minimoys. And if Robert Seven managed to reveal the Minimoys to the world, all of that would come to an end. So I think the Professor is a very good Arthur villain, but I wanted to have an Arthur villain that was a lot more entwined with the Minimoys rather than another human villain. Because, if anything, the Professor was sort of like, almost like a part 2 to, like, Davido's sort of style of character, I guess. Yeah, that's the most recent chapter I've written, so it's gonna contain the best writing I've done for Arthur 5. Yeah, sometimes I look back and I'm just like, oi! No, don't hit Fred Bob. Leave him alone. Yeah, get thorned, bitch. Yeah, sprint. But yeah, so yeah, I wanted to have a villain that was a lot more based around, like, the Minimoys lore and stuff, and I wanted to delve more into the Minimoys lore. Okay, I don't like this. I can die. arrow in a cactus with a creep in the background. We've been getting a lot of cool, like, screensaver, like, screenshots. Ow. But, ugh. So yeah, and I like Mulder. I really do like Mulder. He's a very interesting villain, and there is actually, like, because I've told you guys all the lore that there is for you to find out in Arthur 5. Or no, that's not the right wording, actually. Got to be careful when I'm talking about stuff like that, because the wrong wording can confuse people. I'll be completely honest. Originally, I didn't really have a lot of lore for him. All of the lore that I came up for him originally, you guys already know. And that's basically everything that Cynthia told, Arthur when they first met. That he is basically just a force of... He's like anger and... Pardon me. He's like a living embodiment of anger and rage and dark magic, basically. That is like from the dawn of time. I don't know if I ever really stated the whole from the dawn of time part, but, I'm fine revealing this, because if this hasn't been revealed already, I've fucked up, because I'm pretty sure I meant to talk about this. Or I meant to let you guys know about this somehow, but basically, Mulder's origins are sort of entwined with the beginning of the universe itself, in that, long ago, a meteor landed on Earth in Africa, that contained Mulder, and, this is bringing back some memories, because I know I've talked about this before. I actually, at one point, sort of, played around with the idea of the meteor that contained Mulder actually being the same meteor that killed the dinosaurs. I played around with that idea a bit. I don't know whether or not I ended up, like, I don't really know if that's an idea that I should make canon. I'm not really sure I like that. At the same time, the meteor that killed the dinosaurs, landed in, like, in the Gulf of Mexico, not in Africa, although I could easily just say it was, like, a fragment. I think that was a zombie villager there that just despawned. There's a skeleton over there. Oh, God. Oh, nice. Right. Hey, Karen. So, yeah, I don't know whether I'd go with that idea or not. But the meteor remained, like, undisturbed for ages, and then I think, like, the Minimoys accidentally dug it up. Although, then again, that would take a lot of digging, because, you know, if it landed ages ago and was undisturbed until then, or it could just be that, it could just be that it landed during the era of the ancient Minimoys. And it was just a small little meteor, like the meteor that brought the symbiote to Earth in Spider-Man 3. Because you've got to remember, Mulder is Minimoy sized, so that might have something to do with. Oh, that's a good idea. Maybe maybe the reason I'm just brainstorming out loud to do with my own character here. Maybe maybe the reason that Mulder is Minimoy sized is because like a Minimoy touched the meteor, so it like maybe Mulder is actually based on Minimoy DNA. That's an interesting thing to think about. But Mulder is actually capable of changing his size. I just want to put that out there. That's gonna come up later in Arthur 5. But that is something that he can do. But there is more lore to Mulder. And it ties in with something that is going to be, or might be like in the sort of a main focus of the in-between thing that's going to be in, or might be. Again, I don't want to say will be, because I can't guarantee that any of this is actually going to be written. But might be in the in-between thing between Arthur 5 and the story about Arthur's daughter. Yeah, exactly, Fitz. Ugh. Right. Ugh. We got a few more minutes. We got like 3.5 more minutes until I end off. Why do I have so much sugarcane that I'm not using? But yeah, so I can't promise that the Arthur 5 and all of the stuff around it and after it will ever be finished. But I promise you that if it's not, I will just tell you guys, like, what I had planned. One way or another, you will know how it all ends. Oh yeah, there is one more thing I want to talk about to do with Mulder. Because Mulder, originally, and I do believe I have talked about this before. I originally had it planned that, Mulder was actually going to be an alternate, like, future version of Arthur that had gone back in time after losing Selenia, basically. Albert doesn't have paper trades, does he? No. I forgot to get the bloody ink sacks. But yeah, I've definitely talked about that before, but he was, I toyed around with the idea of him being a future version of Arthur, which actually, it's funny, it actually kind of, it sounds a bit like, obviously we were talking about Eon earlier, and Eon was originally his own species with his own lore and everything, and then in Ultimate Alien he was retconned into being an alternate version of Ben. So it's kind of similar. But, yeah. But I didn't really... I thought it was a cool idea, but I don't really think it worked. And I think it sort of would have ruined the point of Mulder, because Mulder was supposed to be, like, this ancient enemy of the Minimoys, that had lived for, like, millions of years. But I'm not really... I mean, in fairness, that could be another reason to make it Arthur, because it'd be like, it'd be ironic that, like, their greatest enemy was also their greatest hero. That'd be a cool bit of, like, symmetry. Also, random point, but I'm very glad it's not as hot today. I can't remember if I actually mentioned it this stream. But yeah, so I think him being Arthur sort of takes away from, well, actually, like, I could do either. I could have done either. Because if I made it, yeah, Malthazar was Aero too. And Cynthia knew him as well. That's canon. I confirmed that. They fought beside each other. But yeah, I could have done either, because, if I'd have made it so that Mulder was future Arthur, that would have been complex, because then I would have had to involve time travel, so that would have been a bit weird. But if I'd have done that, I would have gone full steam ahead with that and really explored what that meant, because Arthur's biggest weakness is, like how much he cares. And that's both a weakness and a strength, obviously, but it's a weakness because as soon as someone is, like, threatening Selenia, he's basically powerless. Because he can't do anything because he doesn't want her to get hurt or killed. So, that's his biggest weakness. So it's like, what happens when Arthur loses Selenia? What happens when he has nothing left to lose? And I really wanted to explore that. Well, I didn't want to explore that, I just thought it was a fun idea. But I do, like, as opposed, between creating, like, an ancient villain that's, like, the ancient enemy of the Minimoys that's, like, written in prophecy and to do with dark magic and stuff, versus an alternate version of Arthur that would have to involve time travel for it to work, I'd rather go with the version that I went with. And I'm glad I did, because I like the version of Mulder that I went with. I think he's a fun character. And like I said, he does have some more lore to him that you won't learn in Arthur 5. There is some more to Mulder. There's more to him than meets the eye. But with that, I think we're going to end it here. We've had a great stream today. Talked about lots of nerdy shit. Always love talking about nerdy shit because, oh, lovely. Because it's what we do on these streams, and I love talking about nerdy shit. What, like facing himself? Yeah, that's, I do already have the third trial, like the purpose of the third trial roughly planned out, because the first trial was the trial of, oh no, I gotta look this up now, I gotta remember what it is. Let's see. Yeah, so the second trial was the trial of the mind. Where is it? The first trial, chapter 18. So, second trial was trial of the mind. Again, I really put a lot of stuff into these chapters. What was the first trial? Did I even give the first trial a name? Yes, here it is. The Trial of Courage. So, the first one is the Trial of Courage, and that was I'll tell you guys this, because you've waited long enough for a chapter. I might as well give you guys a few sneak peeks. The first trial was the Trial of Courage, and that was for 3 people, which obviously was Arthur, Selenia, and Bedamish, and that was a nice way of me giving the trio some time alone. Obviously I like having Gardenia and Dylan with them as well, but, you know, they are the iconic trio. Then the second trial was the Trial of the Mind, and that was for 2 people, and that was obviously Arthur and Selenia. The last trial will be the Trial of Self, or the Trial of the Self, and that will be faced by Arthur and Arthur alone. So yeah, and I do roughly have what Arthur's gonna face planned out to do with that chapter, but yeah, I don't really have the specifics. I have a few ideas. But everyone, that is going to be it for tonight's stream. I will not be here tomorrow for a zombie stream, unfortunately, because I am out with my friends, pretending to have a social life. But I will be back on Wednesday next week for more of the Trail Frontier Challenge. I'm very glad I discovered that exploit on the trail at the end of the last stream. Should make progress a little bit easier. I'll be back next Friday, obviously, for more of this. And next Saturday for more Black Ops 3 Zombies, where we will be playing Grodkrovi, my favourite map. It's got Russians, it's got fire, it's got dragons, it's got ray guns, it's got the PPSH. It's got lots of cool stuff, so yeah, tune into that as well. So, thanks a lot for watching, everyone. Love you all, and I will see you. Make sure to go join the casual Discord in the description down below if you haven't already. And I will see you on another video or stream very, very soon. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for stopping by.